The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Game Toppers, Bear Spray, and listeners like you.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy, the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Gateway City, St. Louis, Missouri, it's the Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board card and occasionally role-playing games, but probably not. Today, the Dukes review Brew from Pandasaurus Games. Then they take a look back at their review of Imperial Struggle in their Dukes Double Take. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex.
And you're joining us for episode 258 with, are you ready for it, Alex? The one-word title that we've been waiting on for so long. Are you ready?
Yes. Ever since we've announced the challenge, we finally have a winner.
The challenge has been completed. Episode 258 is titled Foment. Foment. Alex, what was the explanation for Foment?
Oh, you're catching me on my heels, Sean.
Oh.
Here we go. Foment, brought to you by Sean Connery. Or Sean Connery? I don't know. I know half of the reference. Anyway, foment means to instigate or stir up an undesirable or violent sentiment or course of action. There's a quite literal stirring up of the potions in Brew, plus all the political unrest in the colonies and Imperial Struggle was fomented by the British and French, as well as political unrest at home.
We did it. Well, this person did it. Shang, I think it's Shang, because if it's like Shang-Chi, then it's Shang.
Shang Connery.
But we did it together as a collective duchy. It's a shared. Congratulations, Shang or Shang gets the lion's share of the credit.
Yes,
but we did it. We did it, everybody. Congrats.
Well, and if you want to join in on the naming party, which we saw some fresh blood in the naming thread this week. Our Dukes of Dice guild is guild number 2008. Special shout out, and I don't want to butcher this name too much, to Marat Onart, who left us a very lovely note. Listens from Mali, which, to my knowledge, is our first African listener, at least that I had heard of. I don't recall anyone in the past.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I do know, for instance, that we've had listeners in Europe. Jonas was on the thread. We have listeners in Asia. I gamed with a gentleman in Singapore. We have a listener in New Zealand. So more continents checked off. The only one I don't know of offhand, Sean, South America. If you're listening to us in South America, let us know, because
we've had listeners in South America before.
Okay. Well, let us know anyway, because it's super cool.
So that was Marat's first time. Is that his first time on the guild?
That's the first time I've seen him in the guild.
Okay. Was that Sean Connery's first time as well?
First time I've seen him in the guild. Both of them rocking the Dukes of Dice micro badges. So
look at that.
Appreciate the repping.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And an extra shout out, Sean, because while I was unavailable to respond, you attempted to foment a move against me, claiming that I was too schmancy, maybe out of touch, perhaps, with ice cream prices as they go. And I have seen nothing but evidence and responses backing up my assertion that those prices were very reasonable.
No, there was some that were on the fence. Eugene, BJ's was a little bit on the fence. Eugene's was a little bit on the fence. It wasn't unqualified support of Alex Goldsmith in no way, shape, or form.
Baker Mitchell came with a specific recent example,
sure,
of being out on a lake and running into $5 ice cream prices as opposed to $1 or $2. For folks who don't know what the heck we're talking about, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say
this is go listen to the start of the last episode. There was an ice cream boat out on Smith Mountain Lake, and has been run for 15 years, 20 years, some long amount of time. I mentioned it on the last episode. And their prices for like a Rocket Pop are $1, and prices for a Klondike bar were $2, and that caught us off guard with how low those prices were. In any case, I don't think I was too off base thinking that was crazy low, but Sean seemed to. So
here's what I'll say, and I think this was part of what Eugene's comment as well, is something like BJ said was like, well, hasn't Sean gone to a baseball game and bought a $20 thing of popcorn. Yeah. I've done all that, but I don't think that's what this was like. I think this is more like your ice cream truck. And I have a resident ice cream truck expert in the household, Raquel.
Oh.
So our ice cream truck, literally, when it comes by, every couple days, it literally parks outside of our house for like 5 minutes waiting for Raquel and or Chewy to hear them. They've even purchased things without money before because Raquel's like, oh, I don't have any cash on me. And the guy's like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'll get you next, or you'll get me next time. So I asked her, and she was about 50 cents to $1 higher than I was. But still, I think, I don't know. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. We'll start a brand new podcast all about this.
Sean, you can just admit you're wrong. It's okay.
I don't think I'm wrong. I think I'm backed by the data. Number one, context is king. You're making a sizable profit of $9 for a box of Reese's Klondikes.
Yeah, all you have to do is maintain a boat and pay for the expensive boat gas for it.
Yeah, but this is a person who knows, right? Okay, look at the Gamers Ranch, right?
Yes.
The Gamers Ranch, he just does enough to make ends meet, right? Not even to make ends meet. Like,
for what 100%. Look, my buddy who just got married at Tower Grove Park, a lovely park here in St. Louis that's still near where we live, but was even nearer to where Abby and I used to live. Got married in a pavilion in that park, and I'm fairly certain they paid more for that pavilion in a public park than we paid for the Gamers Ranch. So, yes, I would say that he is not in it for a profit.
So maybe, I don't know.
That being said, yeah. Look, from the standpoint of it's an institution, that prices are properly set for, this is an institution, a tradition, something I want to carry on, something I'm not really running as a business. I just expected it to be run as a business. And in running as a business, you could probably charge double and still get people to pay and not even blink.
We will discuss further in our brand new sister podcast, the counts of cream, parentheses ice. The parentheses ice is very important.
No, I think it's just counts of cream. That's all we have. Oh man. Yeah. Also, Sean, we saw during all of this someone looking for a return of the Dukes of Diet segment. Any updates on the Dukes of Diet?
Yeah, the Dukes of Diets has been blown.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So what I will say, so there's been off and on for quite a bit. I mean, I think that was clear when I was maintaining it. As of Monday, I've been back on pretty regularly. You can see here, Alex, no, not sponsored. I am drinking a Michelob Ultra, which is delicious. It's anything but delicious. Oh my God, it's terrible. So yeah, I'm up. I'm significantly up. I'm at 282.6 as of this morning. I'd been up to 286 this last week. A lot of times I'll go off for a little bit. I'll be still somewhat responsible, but like the last week was just like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was stress eating or whatever, but I'm like, you know what? I feel like a bunch of pasta. We ordered a bunch of pasta and I just like stuffed my face with a bunch of like family style amounts of pasta. So, but it's good. I really want to go back to the gym with our spike. I'm just super not comfortable with it, but I really would like to. No matter what I do, when I come home, I'm done for the day. Like,
yeah.
But if I have to, if I have a bag of clothes, change of clothes, I'll stop on the way home. Like it's fine. But I haven't been comfortable going to the gym since our spike here. So I don't know. But I'm back on. Yeah, I'm back on. So we'll see.
We'll keep you accountable.
Yeah. Keep me accountable. So
Sean, for my part on all this, hockey is about to start back up, which I'm supremely excited for. I love hockey. I have not been going to the gym. St. Louis has a mask mandate in place for the city of St. Louis, which I 100% respect. I'm not upset about that. But I don't want to work out with a mask just as a personal thing, so I just don't end up going to the gym. And I'm not supremely self-motivated. I tend to like classes and groups. And so I don't have anyone to really do that with. Abby's certainly not in jogging mode these days, what with being 7+ months pregnant. So I have not been getting in there, but weight-wise, I'm fine. I'm right at 200, which is actually down from where I had been. So I've been at like 205, 207. So I'm in a decent place weight-wise, but I think if you were looking at the composition, muscle, fat, and all that, it's probably not great. But it's also, I mean, I'm fitting into stuff. So anyway.
Good. Fitting's important.
Yes. Before we talk about games, Sean, there were some requests to talk about Yellowstone and trips that I had been on, specifically one trip with my brother. This was a last-second trip thrown together, headed out to Yellowstone, mainly because Yosemite was too smoky. Sean, to give you some context on this, I'd never been to Yellowstone. Have you been to Yellowstone before?
I have not been to Yellowstone.
I hadn't either. It is breathtaking. I mean, it is stunningly beautiful. Bison just kind of roaming free. There's an old inn right near Old Faithful. That's where we started our trek. It was my brother and myself, just the two of us out on a journey into the unknown, packing bear spray the whole time. Had to tie up our backpacks at these remote campsites at night, way up on a food pole, so the bears didn't get it and then get us. Never saw a bear during any of this. Did see geysers, saw Old Faithful, saw Lone Star Geyser. The highlight of the trip, Sean, was Mr. Bubbles. It's a remote geyser in the southwest part of Yellowstone Park. It is a hot spring, I should say. It's where a hot spring meets a river. And then there's also a vent of kind of sulfurous bubbles that kind of bubble up. It's kind of like a cauldron that you sit in this big round tub. And the hot spring mixes with the cold river. But the tub itself doesn't have enough time for those temperatures to kind of completely even out. So it is simultaneously hot and cold. So half of your body might be in cold water. The other half might be in hot water. It's a really unusual feeling. My brother and I hung out there for a good couple of hours, took selfies with it. My legs got beat up on this trip. I hiked on the first day. We hiked a total of 15 miles at elevation, which I'm not used to these days, with a 25-pound pack. So we packed relatively light, but a lot of elevation changes. My hamstring the next day was hurting. My feet got blisters at different points. It was a good amount of hiking. By the end of it, it was 32 miles we hiked through the wild Yellowstone wilderness. The part of the park we ended at, Beckler Ranger Station, the whole park gets about 5 million visitors a year. This particular ranger station gets 3,000 visitors a year. You have to go through 3 states to get to it. It's off of a whole bunch of unpaved trail, and if you want to get to anything cool, you have to kind of hike a good number of miles and be willing to camp. And there aren't a ton of campsites. So that was Yellowstone. It was an experience. My brother was ready to get right back out there. He's a nature man for sure. I don't know how nature man I am. I was feeling really anxious, worried about maybe Abby's going to not be okay. Maybe I'm going to get eaten by a bear, and she's going to have to be a single mom raising our daughter. And some dark thoughts have started creeping in as babies come closer. So I've definitely felt the anxiousness, the anxiety creeping in a little bit more of late. So that's Yellowstone. There was a game associated with that, but I mean, honestly, whatever. I played Agropolis, which is based a button-shy game based off of Sprawlopolis. It has other scoring conditions, farms. Really, really strongly recommend either Sprawlopolis or Agropolis. I think they're brilliant games made by Button Shy. They make that wallet series of games. 17 cards, I think, is the maximum, or 18, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, would recommend it, but I guess that's a game. I will say, Sean, do you know how to play cribbage? I know I've discussed cribbage on this show before.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love cribbage.
Okay. My brother and I collaboratively came up with some variants for double cribbage, or as we call it, Madman's cribbage.
Okay.
So there's 2 ways of doing this. Option A, you deal out 6 cards to start, and then you have to put 2 cards either in your own crib or your opponent's crib, or 1 and 1. And then you draw 2 more cards and then distribute the other parts that you didn't do. So if you did 1 and 1, you have to do 1 and 1 again. If you did 2 to yourself, you have to do 2 to your opponent. And so you have double cribbage. The other way to do it is you just draw 8 cards and then dump off 4 into the respective cribs.
I like the first way with less information.
Less information? Yeah. I will say that with 8, it isn't overwhelming. I think what would be interesting is a speed element with 8 cards where each crib has 4 cards, but it's based on who can lay those cards down first. So if you have a really strong, like 4 and 4 in your hand, you can lay down an awesome hand into the crib as long as you do it super fast.
Just what cribbage needs to be, a speed game.
A speed game, absolutely. So that was camping. That was Yellowstone, Agropolis from Button Shy Games, and cribbage from Hoyle? No, not a publisher at this point. Over to you, Sean. Have you actually played anything new?
I have, Alex. Last week at Dukes of Dice Game Night, we got in a play of Merchant's Cove. You heard of Merchant's Cove, Alex?
I have heard of it.
Okay, if you have an opportunity to play this, you need to play this because you will enjoy this quite a bit. Okay, well, oh boy, where do I even begin? So this is published by Final Frontier Games. Let me see here. I've got Final Frontier, I think is who you would know most here in the US, with designers Johnny Peck, Carl Van Ostrand, and Drake Villarreal, with art by the Miko, the guy that did the art for Imperium and also for all of the North Sea, West Kingdom, all that stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Who is that? Renegade? That's Renegade Game Studios.
Yeah, it's on behalf of Garfield, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. So yeah, Mahalo Dmitrievsky. Sorry. So this game is pretty wild. And when we opened it up, the box just vomited components, like chunky components, brights, primary color components, lots of different boards, lots of different looking components from one another. And it was a little overwhelming at first. It was bagged, because the way Empire bags their stuff, it's very meticulous. Bags are labeled. This was like 90 or something bags. It was pretty crazy. The reason it's crazy is because every player is asymmetric, but it's not in terms of a player power. It's in terms of the main mechanic of how they play the game. Basically,
Brute style?
No. Kind of, but to an almost greater degree, where every player has their own mini game, essentially, is kind of what it felt like. So there's one player that's playing potion, like a mini potion explosion. There's another player that's playing like some sort of dice placement game. There's another player that's doing some sort of Gone Shown Clever, but it's not dice as the randomizer. There's this like weird like scrying of bones thing that's the randomizer. And there's like the sea captain who has an actual spinner, like a little spinner that tells you how far these little ships are going to move. And so basically what you're doing here at Merchant's Cove is, as a different player, you are creating goods. You are creating either small or large goods in one of 4 different colors to sell to matching adventurers as they come into the Merchant's Cove. So that's what everyone's doing. That's the same, right? You're making these different goods, but again, you're making them in a very, very different way. So on one hand, it's kind of nice because all right, this person over there, I have no idea what they're doing or how they're doing it, but at least I know this round so far, they've produced, these types of goods and these colors of goods. So I know if I'm behind or ahead or whatever, but I don't really know unless you've played the game from the different roles, you really don't know what the heck anyone's doing. So it's a little weird. But it was really interesting. I mean, this is very much just a medium weight Euro that I really enjoyed, even though probably within each of the mini games, I don't know that there's anything that's super unique and super innovative, but for whatever reason, it just all came together in this really, really nice little package. The really interesting thing that I liked quite a bit is when you start a round, there are different colored meeples on these. I think it's 6 ships. I think it's 6 ships, and the 6 ships are divided into groups of 3, and 2 of the 3 ships are going to pull into the available ports in each of those halves. And then as you take certain actions, you're going to get a chance to pull new meeples from a bag, place them in a ship of your choice, and once that ship is full of meeples, you have the choice to have it dock and decide where it's going to dock. Because a certain dock you're only going to be able to sell large goods. Another dock, only small goods. Another dock, there's going to be your choice of either, but you're going to get, I think it's called corruption. There's kind of this Lords of Waterdeep corruption mechanic where as you do certain actions that give you corruption, you have these cards that are going to be a variable number of negative points. Sometimes there might also be some positive points that can offset it. But there's definitely an element of controlling that corruption. There is a lot going on here. It's one of those games where all of your actions cost a certain number of time. So either 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, whatever. And there is a rondelle on the main board where you're moving your piece that many hours forward. And you can continue to go as long as you're behind or on top, if that makes sense. Kind of like Glenmore or what's the other one? Not Downton Abbey. What's the Abbey one? Not your Abbey, but like Monk Abbey.
It was a Kennerspiel nom a while back.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll think of it here in a second. I like this quite a bit, and I was the blacksmith that does dice placement. It was pretty interesting. Oh, there's also this cool thing where you're hiring villagers that will work different parts in your little workshop or whatever. And so that's another action you could take where you crank the engine on your workers that all give you a different thing. And the more workers you have, the other things that they'll do, or more things they'll do. It was really good. And I'm very much interested in playing this again, playing different characters. I was surprised I enjoyed this as much as I did. We played it at 5 players. I think I'd prefer to play it at 3 or 4, but it wasn't terrible at 5. How often am I saying that for a midweight Euro? Not often.
Yeah, pretty rarely. Yeah.
So I was very pleasantly surprised by Merchant's Cove.
Game you're thinking of is Heaven and Ale.
Heaven and Ale. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Sean, next one I'm going to talk about is more in the context of a wedding, because the game itself takes about 5 seconds to describe. Going back just a quick step, there was a batch bash, so kind of a bachelorette and bachelor party combination at Topgolf. Nice outdoor bays, smack a golf ball around. I have played putt-putt before. I have not played actual golf ever. And here's how bad I was at this, Sean. During my last round of hits, people were like, "Are you sure you're actually left-handed? Like, maybe you'd be better if you would swap over and hit right-handed." And I was a little better hitting right-handed. But man, oh man, am I bad at golf. Really, really, really bad at golf. At the wedding itself, lovely wedding between my buddy Dave and his new wife, Steph. Went just great. Got taught at the reception, which was still in the park, Monopoly Deal, which I had not played before. Sean, have you played this game before?
I have not.
This is a super simple card game. Super simple. Based off of Monopoly, as you would imagine. Your objective is to get 3 sets of properties, whether that be a utilities and, say, Marvin Gardens and whatever goes into that, or Park Place and Boardwalk, the classic Monopoly things. On your turn, you draw 2 cards at the start of the turn, and then you can play 3. You can either play cards in front of you for cash, or some of them are just cash, or you can do certain actions that can involve forcing a trade between players, or laying down properties to make a set, or charging people rent on properties you already have. Once someone gets to 3 sets, they just straight up win. We played 2 rounds of this. Dirt simple. I guess one of the benefits it has over, say, normal Monopoly is it doesn't take, 2 hours. It is equally as luck-based. If you draw the wrong cards, sorry, there's nothing you can really do about it. But a fun little one and enough to get kind of that nostalgic taste of Monopoly, which I have a lot of fond memories playing that and losing to primarily my brother growing up. So that's Monopoly Deal. That's my friend's wedding. Congrats to them. And before we head on over to the review, Sean, there are two crowdfunding projects, and I'm not saying Kickstarter intentionally here, that caught my attention. And there are two projects that I considered backing, but did not.
Okay.
But did not back. One of them is on GameFound, sort of a competitor platform to Kickstarter, and it is Portal's new campaign for 11. 11 is a football manager board game, basically. You're running a football club. It has economic elements. You can make formations. You can make decisions on sponsorships and have to deal with your club's board of directors and make trades and scout new players and then try and sell them for a profit, and gives you the whole experience. The trick, though, with this one, Sean, when they initially launched, they did not have an all-in version. So the base game of this was 60 euros. That's about, last I checked, about $70.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a bunch of expansions. They had the International Players expansion, International Cup expansion, Stadium expansion, Unexpected Event expansion, Solo Campaign expansion. All of those were individually 20 euros a piece.
Oh, my goodness.
And let's add into that, Sean, the shipping on this. The shipping is listed or estimated at another 18 to 21 euros. So, I mean, all in, if you got everything that came with this, it's a pretty penny. Now, they created an all-in pledge level, which is 128 euros. I should note, this is not a miniatures game. This is not a big kind of epic sweeping a bunch of molds, models, whatever else. This is tokens and cards and some dice. And some cool tokens and cards and some cool, it looks like it's going to be well produced. But man, I had a hard time going there with this one.
Yeah.
I had a hard time going there. And then in the same week, also launching, we discussed a few episodes ago, good number of episodes ago at this point. Sean, do you remember Shasin?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Talked about it. Dan King was texting me about this because he was doing a preview video for the new campaign, Shasin Azadi, which is about kind of revolutions and rebellions. This is a political game with kind of some King's Dilemma-esque choices. Really interesting area control game. Kind of mean, but led to some really funny moments. And absolutely loved playing this one. If you want to hear a more in-depth discussion of the play itself, go back a few episodes. I'll see if I can figure out which one it was. I think he texted me the number. Hang on. Episode 247. Episode 247, according to Dan. That's wrong. It's Dan King's fault. Go blame him, I guess. So this one is up on there. Also not a miniatures game. Also gorgeously produced. I know this for a fact from seeing the original Shasin. If you want the standalone Azadi, that's going to run you $125.
Oof.
Not including the, standby, scrolling way down because this is a very long Kickstarter page. Oh, we'll get there. This one is... I scrolled past it. Too many things on this page. There we go. $35 shipping estimates in the U.S. $35. You can get the original base game. Kickstarter version's $99, retail version's $80. I mean, it is... I had a tremendous amount of fun with this game, so I'm considering doing it. But man, that's a steep price. I mean, you're talking with the shipping included for the standalone new version of this, more than $150. And again, beautifully produced multi-layer player boards, really lovely art, nice tokens, not a miniatures game. So this is going to be something to watch, I think, within the hobby, Sean, because I think the anchor prices we have in our head, especially from kind of longer time hobbyists, I don't think are going to be remotely accurate anymore. The shipping and manufacturing situation has been such an unbelievable mess that I think you're going to see more and more things like this. So be prepared for some sticker shock, because I had that with both of these.
Well, and I think too, I'm hearing that now, as games are close to fulfillment or getting ready to get shipped because of the shipping crisis and the manufacturing bottleneck and all of that, that publishers, and understandably so, they're asking for people to say, hey, look, it's going to be I need $20, $40, $60, because shipping is just skyrocketing. And
Yeah.
I am not backing anything on Kickstarter right now, because I don't want to lay out I mean, I rarely have been in the last couple of years, but still, like, I don't want to lay out $40 plus another 20 for shipping and then have my game held up unless I, dole out another $30.
Well, guess what I've been dealing with? And this is, by the way, I want to be clear as I'm telling this story. This, as best I can tell, is not the publisher's fault. But I backed Cascadia on Kickstarter, which I've seen a lot of people get delivered. They locked down the campaign before my address change to where Abby and I moved in was finalized. So I figured mail forwarding would take care of it just fine. It got tangled up. So it was shipped, I think, via Smart Post effectively. So it was FedEx and then handed off to USPS. And then USPS got the redirect, but then we're like, hey, you didn't pay us enough postage for this redirect. So the package was last scanned on July 28th. I had found this out after a whole bunch of conversations with USPS. And who knows where the heck it is. It's gone.
Yeah.
So now I'm in a back and forth email, and I am reasonably sure Flat Out's going to do the right thing, and we'll arrange a reship. I might have to go out a few dollars for that. I don't know how that's going to all get resolved. But, I mean, that's not an insignificant thing, and especially for me being in St. Louis, if I can just go to Miniature Market and pick up the game in person and not have to go through the hassle and stress, and the possibility, by the way, that the Kickstarter product I'm going to get is a disappointment. We talked about previously, I don't even recall the name at this point, but a soccer game I backed that was just terrible. Just an awful game. I don't think either of these are going to be that. I think 11's going to be an amazing game. I think Shasen, I know the core system of that is great. I like the system it's built on. I have a feeling it's well worth it. But, pricey. It's getting pricey these days.
Woo.
Yeah, anyway. Just thought I'd mention that. Not really a full news segment, but just something I noticed this week. And I'm curious how it's affecting other gamers in the space as they look to back or not back stuff on Kickstarter. So, anyway. Yeah. Well, good deal. Well, after the break, our review of Brew. Well, Sean, the Game Toppers 3.0 Kickstarter is in the books. And thanks to a whole bunch of backers, Game Toppers had a heck of a Kickstarter campaign, more than $800,000 raised to get more Game Toppers, new features, all sorts of fun stuff headed folks' way.
Wait, did you say 800,000?
I did say that amount. Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's a ton of money.
Sean, did you make it in time? Are you part of that group?
It's over? It's over? Like over?
No, it's done. I'm sorry you missed your window. But the good news, Sean, is that if you keep an eye on the Game Toppers LLC website, the late pledge manager should be open in the near future. Take a look there, and you can still get in on all the fun, get the newest features, get yourself a Watson, or get yourself, I don't know, whatever you want. Awesome game mats, rails, something cool to really take your gaming experience to the next level without getting a fully dedicated gaming table, which is exactly what Game Toppers is all about. Check them out, GameToppersLLC.com, because if it ain't a showstopper, it ain't a Game Topper. Stouts, ales, pilsners have absolutely nothing to do with this game. This is a game about a multi-seasonal disaster all coming together. Spring, summer, winter, and fall all at once. Crazy critters that need a home, and you with potions to brew. Is this a game that makes you say woohoo or say shoo? We'll tell you.
Time is broken and shattered. The seasons all exist at once, and day and night have no real cycle. They rotate at the whim of the forest. This enchanted land has been driven into chaos, and it's up to you, the cunning mystics of the forest, to tame extraordinary woodland creatures and use your magic to bring back balance. In Brew, players must choose how to use element dice, either to take back control of as many seasons as possible in an area control game, or to procure goods at the local village in a worker placement game. Recruiting woodland creatures and brewing potions can help offset chance die rolls or create an engine to help you tame the lands. I think that's a pretty good introduction there from the rulebook of Brew. Brew was designed by Stevo Torres with art by Jake Morrison and Andrew Thompson. I could say those names. And this was published by Pandasaurus Game. All right, so in Brew, it plays up to 4 players. Let's talk about what you're going to set out. In the middle of the board, you're going to put out the village board, the 2-sided village board. And guess what? You're going to be using both sides during the game. You're going to be flipping it back and forth from one round to the next. And this is a worker placement board. There are some spots where any number of players can place their worker placement dice. There's also some exclusive spots. You're also going to place out a certain number of forest cards. It's going to depend on the number of players. These are additional places to place dice, but also, like I mentioned, there is an area control element because at the end of a given round, whoever has the majority dice on a particular forest is going to get that forest. And each forest is worth a variable number of points. Plus, there are some bonus points if you're able to kind of align them with some of the creatures, which I'll talk about in a second. There's also a supply, or rather a market of potions. Potions are things that you will spend the resources you're gathering to brew. That's basically the cost to pick them up from the market and place them in your hand. You can do that once per turn. You could also then drink a potion once you've brewed it. And you could do that once per turn. And these are going to have all sorts of effects. They may let you place dice in different ways. They may allow you to change the face of dice, all sorts of different things. And then there's also the creature piles. I say that because there's basically decks where they're divided into the different seasons. There are actions that you'll take that will let you acquire these creatures. When you acquire a creature, you're going to place it on the left side of your player board. You can have up to 3 creatures, and each of them are going to have some different abilities that will help you throughout the game. They might be an exclusive worker placement spot for you to use. They might give you an ability that says, whenever you do this, you can also do this. They may give you some way to get resources or points at the end of the round. Lots of different options. And anytime you're going to get more than, a creature beyond your third one, you have to choose one of the old ones to kind of, I don't know if retire is the right word, but you still get it. You just don't get the power. And at the end of the game, you're going to add up all of the value of the creatures. Plus, like I mentioned before, if you're able to match up a creature from a particular season with a forest that matches that color, then that creature is going to be worth more points. Now, for the individual players, you have your player board. And it's really not a board. It's kind of an oversized card. And you have different asymmetric powers that will really want to kind of guide you in how you play the game. You're also going to get 6 dice. You're going to get 2 element dice, which are kind of a neutral color. And then you're going to get 4 forage dice that are in your player color. There's also a handy dandy little reference sheet, a reference card that's double-sided that will help you out. All right. So the gameplay looks like this. You're going to start a new round. First player is going to rotate, and then you're each going to take turns where you're at least placing out dice on your turns until everyone runs out of dice. Like I mentioned before, also on your turns, you can brew a potion and you could drink a potion. We can only do each of those once. You can do both in the same round or in the same turn, but only one brew, one drink. And when you place out on a forest, usually you're going to place one of your forage dice. Your forage dice, these are all 6-sided dice, by the way. There are 3 different forage symbols. There's like a rock, a twig, and a leaf, I think. And the different forest spots will have those symbols. And so you have to place on a matching symbol, and then it's going to give you one of the different types of resources. There are, there's like mushrooms. There are, I can't really tell. Like they're kind of hard to tell what was what.
Impossible to tell. Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Impossible. Okay. And then it also might let you train an animal where you get to take one of the animals, the face of animals, into your tableau. There is a way where you can force a die, where basically you don't get anything from placing it onto the forest, but because of because of area control, you want that die there at the end of the round. There's also the spots on the village board. Like I said, there are a couple spots that are not exclusive. but there's also specific spots for the 3 different faces of the element dice. So there is fire, wind, and water.
Yes.
And they each correspond to these different spaces, which lets you do different things depending on which side the village board is on. Additionally, you can place out your element dice onto the forest, but the interesting thing is that they'll do different things. So for example, if I place the fire out onto one of the forest, a fire die, I place it covering up another player's die. I get the action, but now I've essentially I've covered up their die so it doesn't count towards area majority. And this neutral die now potentially is a contender for area majority. I believe it's the water die gives you double the resources. And I'm completely blanking on what the air die does. Do you remember what the air die does?
Air die lets you push off one of your own dice. It replaces it on that spot, and then you get that die back to replace somewhere else.
Exactly.
The water one gets you 2 additional resources, not double.
Oh, not double. That's right. 2 additional. Correct. All right. So yeah, you're going to play this over a number of rounds. And then after that, there's final scoring where you're going to count the points on potions that you have brewed and or drank. You could also, there's an action that lets you reserve potions. You don't get points for that unless you've paid to brew them. For any of the claimed forests, you're going to get the points there. For any of your creatures, you're going to get the points there. More if they're matching the season of forest cards that you've claimed. There are actions throughout the game that may give you VP tokens. Those will get added up. And then leftover ingredients are worth 1 VP for every 3 leftover. And whoever has the most points is the winner of the non-beer related game Brew.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, Alex, what was your knowledge of Brew before I said, "Hey, Alex, let's play Brew? Let's play Brew for our review game."
I thought it was about beer.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I didn't know a lot about it. And in fairness, I think some members of the guild, as we'll discuss in the rest of the top 6, also had that impression, perhaps. It's not about beer. I didn't know anything about the game. Hadn't really heard about it. Yeah, it was basically you sent a picture of what was on Empire's gaming library, and that was one that I looked at and said, that looks interesting. Let's try that one out. So I knew very little about this one going in, so I didn't have a ton of expectations in any direction, really.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I do think this is a better way for us to choose review games going forward, to kind of work backwards from what does Empire have.
Yes.
That creates a little bit more stability and planning. And anyway, but yeah, I saw this on the shelf. It looked, I like the art. It's the Miko. I like his art style. It's kind of cutesy. Even though it's got Pokemon that aren't named Pokemon. But I didn't know anything about it, and I just assumed it had something to do with beer, because I do not associate brewing with potions, even though I think that's a fairly logical connection. It just seems like in our world, brewing is beer. So
yeah,
that's the sadness of living in a non-magical world, Alex.
Yep. Except for the magic of beer, which, can be magical if it's the right beer.
Unless it's Michelob Ultra.
I had a very good sour ale with passion fruit made by Four Hands Brewing, one of my favorite breweries here in St. Louis, and enjoyed that just the other night. So anyway, this game has nothing to do with beer. So
nothing.
Yeah. Rulebook. Sean, did you learn this one from the rules or not?
I did not. Eugene taught this, but I did go back and read the rulebook earlier tonight, and I have got to say, this is one of the best rulebooks I have read in a long time.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I learned it from the rulebook with a little. I sort of watched another video. The video was immaterial. The rulebook is staggeringly good. Colorful, beautiful examples, well laid out. You can absolutely learn this game. Exceptions are clear. They're in the spaces that you would expect to see them. And I would say the game as a rules experience, Sean, tends to have very limited exceptions to things. The game has a very consistent internal logic, and things work as you would expect or want them to work. If you have a guess as to how does this thing work, it pretty much works that way. So A simple, relatively simple game to teach, and a beautiful rule book. I mean, excellent job by Pandasaurus here.
And let's give credit. So it lists in the credits, in addition to the game design by Steve Torres, preliminary development was Jonathan Gilmore, and then development and rules editing, Jeff Frazier. So I got to give credit where credit's due. Excellent rulebook.
Yes. Yeah. Not much more to say there. They did a killer job on that. Art and components for this one, Sean.
Okay, everything I think is great, with one exception: the little tiny mints that are the VP tokens. They are so tiny. They are like it's half. I don't know. We use inches. They are not even a quarter inch. I don't think. I think they're probably less than a quarter inch. They're tiny. But other than that, well, the components are good. I think card quality is good. Boards are good. The tokens, everything is pretty solid. The types of the resources are somewhat indistinguishable. Like, I was just like, let me have the blue one, let me have the orange one. The mushrooms I can make out no problem. I guess the blue ones are crystals of some kind or another. But they were all kind of small. I like the art style. I think it's interesting that the creatures really seem to be Pokemon without calling themselves Pokemon. But yeah, other than that, I think it's pretty solid. I do like that the forage dice, the symbols were easy to differentiate. I never had like, even though they're all just kind of like plain line drawn and filled in, I didn't have a hard time distinguishing either on my dice or on the cards that were maybe not right in front of me, the forest cards. I didn't have a problem with that. So I thought it was pretty solid. Biggest complaint is just the tiny victory point tokens, which was weird. And I guess they wanted to fit on your player board, but
So I'll say this in support of that. I did like that the 1 and the 3 victory point tokens were different sizes. I appreciate when they're not the same size, but just different numbers written on them. I appreciated that. And yeah, they're pretty small. I fine. I didn't encounter that as a problem. I think the cards themselves are well laid out and clear. The only thing that came up as a question, and the rulebook addresses this just fine, but because the forests that you play in, most of them, not all of them, are divided. They're half of a card is winter and summer, as an example.
Yeah.
It might appear that if you place on the winter side of that card, and there's some abilities that trigger off of if you gather from a winter space, gather 1 extra. The entire card, regardless of where the exact position of that space is considered in winter.
Right.
I get why they did it the way they did it, but that's the only slightly unintuitive thing that came up in both plays. There were questions about that specific thing. Other than that, clean, well laid out. The seasons look different. The different players look different. The art style is beautiful. Looks really cool.
Yeah.
And I like the efficiency of how this is all laid out, right? You have that square board. You lay out these cards to one side, these cards to the other, these cards above. The board doesn't hold anything, so you can easily flip it. And in fact, as we'll discuss in gameplay, you are required to, right? In between rounds 2 and 4, use a different side of the board compared to rounds 1 and 3. So, yeah, player aids were clean. I have no complaints, really. Even the small victory point marker. One small complaint. I think this is done for environmental reasons. I'm noticing this every now and then with some games. This one didn't come with all of the bags you might want to bag up individual components separately if you tend to like doing it that way. The workaround we had was we kind of put the dice in each of the little corners in one part of the tray and then bagged them all up in one go. We actually had all of the components just in 2 different bowls, and that played out just fine. So I don't think it's really a problem, but, insert's good, but not great. It's a very small nitpick. It really is a nitpick in this situation. Broadly speaking, a really well done production.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, this is the key though, Sean. How did this play for you? I'm curious how you like this one. It's an interesting blend of dice worker placement, area control. My fear was it might be too light for you.
Well, yeah. So here's my prediction. Well, I guess I'm not really predicting myself. Yes, it was a little too light for me. And my fear / prediction for you is it's a little too mean for Alex.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about it now. So if you want to respond to that, you can.
No, it wasn't too mean for me.
Oh.
So I played this at 2 players and 3 players. And I liked it at both counts, actually. It is absolutely a cutthroat game. It's completely cutthroat. But I think part of what has it work is there's some amount of table negotiation that can take place, especially at 3 players. I can imagine even more at 4. Hey, this is my forest. I want to have control of it. I'm just going to claim this one card. Because in a 3-player game, you're trying to battle over 4 different forests. And if you try and get 2 of those, if you can somehow pull off getting 2 of those, bravo, you've done a killer job. It's hard to do with 4 forage dice, especially because to get control of a card, you have to have strictly more than anyone else, including the element dice. And the element dice can prove a nice little interesting spoiler. The way that they can be used, played on top of other things, removed, added. The maneuvering in this game was super fascinating. And I liked that on your turn, the structure was, right, I can buy a potion, use a potion, place, in whatever order of that I choose. And it allowed for some interesting feeling turns and clever plays. So, setting it up in such a situation where I make sure I absolutely preserve this one high-scoring forest, and I have to battle the whole round tooth and nail just to hang on to it. And if I can pull that off, that feels super satisfying. And there were a lot of those moments. And there were also moments of, my dice got switched for another one of the same symbol, and all these plans went awry. The game encourages you to be flexible, and it gives you the tools to be flexible as you go. It gives you access to potions to reroll, potions to remove dice, place additional dice, kind of blitz as you go and take up spaces. I get how you could think it would be too mean for me. I didn't find it too mean at all. I found it to be a pretty enjoyable experience and battling back and forth. I have a pretty strong beef with one aspect of this game, but it's not the meanness. I can absolutely get why some people would find it mean. I take it for you, Sean. It's definitely not too mean.
No. I mean, that's all part and parcel, I think, with area control games. I mean, I think that's baked into the cake, so to speak. But for me, you mentioned clever plays, and I would agree with that to an extent, but I never had like these big aha moments. Like, obviously it's like, okay, cool. I'm trying to collect these resources so I can get this potion. This potion's gonna let me do something really cool. You kind of mentioned some of the different manipulation of dice, right? Like you can swap 2 dice that are on 2 different cards, or you can remove a die, or you can cover a die with the fire die, or maybe you're losing on this one particular forest where you thought you're going to win, so you place out your air die to pull that die back that you can then place somewhere else. Like, there are a lot of options, and it's good. It's gonna be one of those games where I'm saying it's better than I'm giving it credit for. I'm not the right audience for it, and take my review with a grain of salt.
I really like this one, Sean. I mean, I like that you have options of, I can do some pretty powerful things on the main board. I can try and consolidate power or disrupt my opponent's plans. I can try and focus on myself. Finding some interesting combos among the critters can be super satisfying, and finding that right synergy. You can get your own worker placement spots. Trying to manage and match those up is an interesting exercise. Turn order can matter pretty dramatically. I don't know. I just found some interesting plays and some interesting gameplay moments here. Now, I will say, Sean, did you play this one at 4, by the way? I'm curious how it played at different counts for you.
Yeah, I did play at 4, and I think probably higher player count is where this game shines. And I think that's usually true for area control games. Normally for a worker placement game, my preference is 3-ish, somewhere in there. But because of the area control element, I think this game probably shines at 4.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to play it at 4. I did like it better at 3 than I did at 2, but I thought it was certainly functional at 2. Was still an enjoyable gameplay experience. I will say, Sean, the player powers, to me, were the thing I had the biggest beef with. Now, I want to be clear.
Yeah.
These games tend to be tested pretty well, right? You would assume, right? You would hope for a publisher that they've tested and they've balanced and they've done what they can. We had the same dude, the dude who anytime he buys a potion gets energy berries can give him a pretty beefy discount. That dude won both of the games that got played and actually got to use their power several turns within the game, whereas the other powers didn't get used as much. I think the one that allows you to have 4 animals could lead to some really broken, cool combos, so I think that maybe as a more advanced strategy could be a really good one. But the other two, I got some use. I think I used that ability where you can pay an energy berry to place on top of another die, but not gather from it. I think I used that ability once or twice during our game. And Abby used her ability where you can pay 2 energy berries to win a tie, exactly 0. Maybe if you better plan and play, you can utilize those better. But one of those is certainly much easier to use than the other. Now, all that being said, the player powers are strictly optional. There's another side to these characters that has them completely erased. And I think if you got rid of them and just had it completely balanced, the gameplay would not really suffer. The asymmetric elements of that don't add a ton. But it did feel, and again, do not have enough data to actually back this up, it did feel somewhat unbalanced. Did you have any of those kinds of hints of things, Sean?
I do, but I think I'm kind of drawing different conclusions from you. So just want to make sure first, the one where you mentioned the discount if you're spending energy berries, you realize that's only the first time. Okay.
First potion. Well, you can only buy 1 potion a round, but.
Well, right. But what I'm saying is you can't. Okay. So basically energy berries they count as wild ingredients. And so one time per potion brewing, you could spend 1 energy berry to count as 2 resources.
Right.
So it's not like I could spend 2 to count as 4.
No, I understand that. We played that properly. But
just making sure.
What that means is 1 energy berry can often buy 1 potion. Because there's some of those potions that have single costs.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. I think the one that lets you spend 2 berries, the two wilds, to win a tie, I think that is hands down the most powerful. And if all you're doing is making sure you collect 2 berries around, 2 energy berries around, and then do some other stuff, that is probably the best way to generate points because I saw that used to very good effect.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I had a different experience. You had a different experience. Maybe they're all balanced and we're just seeing them employed in different ways. So who knows?
And look, as mentioned, the bottom line is you can play them without the powers and it will not affect the game in a significant way.
Yeah. I would agree. So I don't know, Alex. I'm again, this is a fine game and I would encourage people to check it out. But I don't know that I have a lot more to contribute.
That's fair.
To this discussion.
Look, I think it's better than fine. What I like about it is it has an efficient use of components. It's easy to learn and to teach, but it does a great job of incorporating that dice worker placement with area control and does it in a way where you can feel clever and make interesting plays. I think it checks all the boxes as far as that goes. I also love the flipping center board that provides different actions depending on which round it is. I think that's a cool little way to add a little bit of variety to it. And let me add in, Sean, the MSRP on this game is $30.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's pretty crazy cheap for the amount of gameplay you get out of this. So I think from a value perspective, checks that box too. And really, it does what I want it to do. Is this a mind-blowing top game of all time for me kind of thing? No, but I lean more great than good, which is a very strong hint as to my score. Theme? Do we want to talk theme really quickly? Does the theme add something to this game?
I had no idea about the theme. Like I just knew it was, you're brewing potions, you're collecting these mystical woodland creatures. I had no idea that like the seasons were all this. Like there was some time rift. I knew nothing about that until I read it here, or I read the rule book earlier tonight. And not really.
Yeah, I mean, look. Now, I think what's an interesting exercise at this point, Sean, because I think we're both in agreement that certainly the name doesn't evoke the kind of content. I think the theme worked in the sense that we were talking about our critters and kind of giving them funny Pokemon names and weird voices at times. And so you felt the theme in a sense. Certainly you're gathering strange ingredients that you can turn into these cool potions. The one that scorches spaces has like a fireball inside the bottle, and it evokes things, certainly. Sean, this is a dangerous exercise because we've outsourced naming of stuff to the guild. But if you had to give this game another name, what would you give it?
Well, okay, so before that, do you feel like the potions, because you're brewing potions, do you feel like that's the focus of the game? Like, and I get it, like you're collecting these resources, and these resources are primarily used to brew the potions, use their powers, get their resources, or get their abilities. But I don't feel like that's the thematic focus of the game. Even though that's kind of like what everything you're doing revolves around. That
it's not the biggest source.
Does that
of
make
points.
sense?
Like the biggest source of points tends to be the forest and the critters, rather than say the potions. The potions can actually, I mean, in fairness, the potions can make up a pretty decent chunk of your score. So I don't know if that's totally true. I would say this is not an official name suggestion, but how does Forest Fight land with you? It certainly, I mean, what you're doing in a lot of cases is fighting over forests. That tends to be. I don't think that's a great name, but it does fit more the central theme of what you're up to in a lot of cases.
Okay. Let's listen to this introduction again. Time is broken and shattered. The seasons all exist at once, and day and night have no real cycle. They rotate at the whim of the forest. This enchanted land has been driven into chaos, and it's up to you, the cunning mystics of the forests, to tame extraordinary woodland creatures and use your magic to bring back balance. Brew captures 0 of that. 0. And even Forest Fight, yeah, that describes much better what it feels like you're doing. But either that theme needs to change or the name needs to change.
You can't just go with seasons. That's taken.
It is taken. How about
Pokemon Diamond?
Yeah, it's
Pokemon Leaf
like
Green.
I feel like the creatures should have more of a focus. Like they're what really give the game personality, and they're what really let you kind of build an engine.
Yes.
Not really the potions. The potions give you this sort of one-time powerful effect, but your sort of your particular play style is dependent on those creatures that you're getting.
If they're going for the one-word title, Sean, how does tame work for you?
That's a very tame sounding title.
Yeah, I know. You set yourself up for some bad reviews if you name it tame.
Well, I mean, why, this episode title aside, why do they need a one-word title?
Okay, how about tame and trample? So you trample over other people in the forest, you're kind of fighting there, and you're taming critters. Tame and trample.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, sure.
I wasn't expecting we were going to crack this nut. Perhaps the name father or someone else listening can come up with a better name for this game.
Forest.
Yeah.
Forest Mystics.
No, that's abysmal.
I don't know. That's abysmal. Jeez.
Abysmal. Awful name.
Better than tame.
Yeah, probably. Although, kind of, it's all right for a one-word title. Do you like tame better or brew? If you had to have one for the name of the game.
I hate them both.
You hate them both equally, though.
I hate them both equally. I've weighed them and I found them both equally wanting.
Okay, fair. Wild Woodlands.
What'd the guild have to say, Alex?
Guild didn't have anything to say on this game.
Nothing.
So we can kind of just skip that.
Absolutely.
Final thoughts and ratings, Sean? The anticlimactic part of this review, I think.
Yeah. We rate everything here, the Dukes of Dice, on a 6-point scale. A 1 is poorly designed but playable, not necessarily fun. 6 is an all-time favorite that is a contender for the top 10. For me, this is very easily, yeah. Very easily. Hold on. Very easily a 3. Okay. Game is okay, not exciting, will play in the right situation. Those situations are very limited, which is why I was like, it's not a 2. The game is way better than a 2. I think for a good many people, this would probably be a 4. I suspect you're going to give it a 4. I don't think you're going to give anything higher than a 4. But yeah, for me, it's a very solid 3. You're going to give it higher than a 4 just to spite me now, aren't you? You gave me this quizzical look.
No, were you listening? No. This is on the record earlier. I said I tend to think of this game more as great than good, and that's probably a hint to my final score.
Oh.
I absolutely said that earlier, not to spite you.
This game is not great. It's not great. Your opinion is wrong.
Okay.
Go on, give it a spiteful 5.
I said it earlier. I absolutely
I know.
earlier.
You're right. You did.
I think this is a current 5. Great game, will really turn down a play of it. On the lower end of that, and probably, as you're identifying, Sean, likely to settle at a 4. A good game, worth playing, just not all the time, belongs in the Duchy. It's not so tremendous at 2 that I would break this out all the time with Abby, and I think that for a game that has 2-player capability has to be at least a consideration. It plays better at 3. I don't know how well it would play at 4. I can imagine it doing pretty great. But enjoyed both plays of this pretty significantly and really don't have a ton of complaints about the game as a whole. I think it's well-designed, beautiful rule book, does interesting things, has you feel clever enough, is not too mean for my taste, but I can understand other people having that sentiment. So, yeah, there you go. I'm at a 5 currently. Probably will be a 4 a year from now. We'll see. We'll see what time has to say about that. So anyway, that's our review of Brew. A 3 from Sean and a 5, but on the lower end for me.
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out Dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double Take.
Next up, a Dukes Double Take. Looking back at episode 233, Best at 2, where Sean reviewed Imperial Struggle without me. He reviewed it with Rory. And Sean, you were very high on this game.
Yeah, absolutely I was. So I gave this a 6. I said I have to give this game a 6. I said that I didn't expect to like it better than Twilight Struggle, but I did, in fact, like it better than Twilight Struggle. By the way, this is same designer's spiritual successor. It's the struggle between Britain and France in the 18th century, kind of culminating with the War of American Independence. Yeah, to me, this was very much a refined version of Twilight Struggle that the designers had kind of had more time, had refined other designs. There's a lot of DNA that's shared with it, but even though I like the Twilight Struggle Cold War theme a lot more, this game was just incredible. Just absolutely incredible. Rory, our buddy Rory from Empire Board Game Library, who stepped in for the review, he gave this a 5. He hadn't played it quite as much as I had. By that point, I think I'd played it like 4 or 5 times. He'd only played it once, but I wound up coming in to teach him and someone else how to play after the review. And he said he gave it a 5. A great game, will rarely turn on a play of it, but said possibly a 6 if he had a couple more plays under his belt. Probably his top game of the year. I said it's probably going to wind up being my top game of the year. That was in August or September. I think it was August last year, or it was September. Either way, looking back at the 2021 games, I can tell you, yeah, that's my top game of 2021. Looking at it, probably Ruins of Arnak might be number 2. Is that right?
Ooh.
I think so. With Dune Imperium number 3? Yeah, probably. So yeah, for me, it's still a 6. I think this game is awesome. I have played it one time since. It's hard to get to the table. It's a bear to teach, but it's really good. It is so good. I'm still shocked that you think the board is disgusting looking. I think we talked about it in the next episode.
Yeah.
And I showed you the board and I held it up as like, look how beautiful this is, Alex. I'm sure that given your distaste for the art and iconography of GMT games, you must admit that this looks fantastic. And you're like, no, it's garbage.
Yeah, I pulling it up again. I stand by that. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of hexes and circles and squares and stuff, and diamonds. It's just a bunch of shapes.
Wow.
So, yeah, pretty boring.
Literally, our entire world is a bunch of shapes,
Okay.
Alex.
Well, this is blatantly a bunch of shapes, and I don't like it, sir.
You, sir, are a rude Gus.
Rude Randy, I prefer, is my name. Anyway,
What's your top game of all time, Alex? Again?
Baseball Highlights 2045, first mention.
It's garbage. Sorry, Mike, but it's garbage.
Wow. I mean, we know just from your score that's not the case. Anyway,
I'm feeling mean because you're dumping all over this beautiful board.
I don't like the board. Like, the game might be great. I just don't like how the board looks.
You wouldn't like the game. Maybe you
I
would.
don't know.
No, you wouldn't.
Who knows?
It's too long. It's too long
All
for
right.
you.
From the Guild, Francois Miley said, after a year and 2 more plays of it, still a great game. Always tense with the action selection, and trying a new mix of ministry cards does give different strategic avenues. Not perfect, is a beast to teach. A long game and only for 2 players. Just the best game of 2020, which you agree with.
And I think I was saying 2021. I meant 2020.
You absolutely did, but I didn't. I'm very polite, so I didn't jump in and correct you at the moment.
Yeah, you won't correct, the actual factual errors. You'll just correct how beautiful the board looks. But that's fine.
Well, one of those is a correction. One of those is an opinion. So, anyway.
I don't have opinions. I have facts, Alex.
Oh, all right. Well, interesting. Anyway, that's the
just like your opinion of Brew being a 5 is wrong.
okay. Well, that's our double take of Imperial Struggle. Stays at a 6 for Sean, his favorite game of last year, not this current year. Before we go, the best of the rest, the names we did not.
Hold on real
What?
quick. Hold on
What?
real quick. Hold on
What?
real quick. I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna call Rory.
Oh boy.
And we'll put it on speaker.
Now
All right,
Rory has been known to occasionally let us down.
The person you have dialed is not.
Oh. Okay, he's gonna try again.
No, I hit the wrong Rory.
Oops.
Okay.
Let's see how it goes.
Go. You're saying
No,
Alex?
I will wait.
Mean
I will
Duke
wait
Alex?
for him to pick up or not.
Oh, come on, Rory.
I'm just having to catch you stopping in the trail, but I'm gonna have to let you go because I'm running out of sunlight.
Wait, real quick. You're on the podcast. Imperial Struggle. You gave it a 5 last year. Would you keep it at a 5 or would it go up to a 6?
Imperial Struggle.
France versus Britain. We reviewed it on the podcast, you dingus.
Oh, Imperial Struggle. Yeah, I was talking about that card one we just did. Would I give it a 5 now over a 6?
Well, no, you gave it a 5. You gave it a 5 last year. You said maybe 6 with more plays. So what would it be?
I think it would still be a 5. Although, you know what? That was the game that I was trying to remember, the war game that I wanted to get back on the table with you.
Yeah.
Because I think it probably does have the potential to be a 6. It's one of the best war games I played.
Heck yeah. Okay, go back to your trail.
All right, bye.
Later.
All right, there you go.
He's getting his bike ride in.
Oh, he's all about that. So anyway, all right, wrapping up properly now. Stays at a 6 for Sean. Stays at a 6 for Rory, but as you heard, looking to get it back on the table. All right.
No, stays at a 5.
Stays at a 5.
Stays at a
Sorry,
5.
dang it. All right. Best of the rest, names we didn't pick. Sean, you want to start us off?
Sure. BJ from Board Game Gumbo suggested Bubble, Toil, and Struggle. That is a play off the Macbeth quote, the 3 witches. Bubble, Toil, and Trouble, I believe is the line there. Substituting out the Trouble for Struggle for Imperial Struggle. There we go. Good job, BJ.
Alex Bistecki with a fantastic name. I think this one led in terms of thumbs. But, Alex, I don't know if you got fooled or if you too were just kind of playing off of it, but he went with Imperial Stout, referencing Imperial Struggle, and for Brew, a stout, even though the game has nothing to do with beer. I don't know, Alex. I don't know if you were fooled. It's a good name, but this game's not about beer. So.
I think if this game had been about beer, I think that would have been the title, the episode title. So, and then Steve O'Rourke, the name father, suggested the 4 treasons, taking the elements from Brew, the 4 seasons, and then all of the political turmoil treasons from Imperial Struggle. Excellent suggestion. Baker
Mitchell came with Caldera, referencing the calderas of Yellowstone, which I discussed earlier, referencing the kind of boiling under the surface tension, energy, whatever of Imperial Struggle. And then caldera kind of sounds like cauldron, or is it literally cauldron in Spanish?
I think, or Latin?
Oh, okay.
Some Romance language.
Oops. Well, anyway, Baker Mitchell with the one-word title Caldera. Pretty good one. Just we went with another one-word one instead. And I'm going to jump in on this last one, Sean. I'm not going to alternate because this is potentially, I don't know if it was intended, but could have been a singing one. Do you know the reference or the song that this might be referring to? And probably isn't.
I don't, but I'm familiar with the phrase.
So yeah, there's absolutely a phrase. So the title is Cruisin' for a Bruisin'. But there is a song tied to this, which I don't know if Sean will drop a clip of it in or not, but from the Disney Channel original movie, Teen Beach Movie, there is absolutely a song called Cruisin' for a Bruisin'. You're cruising for a bruisin'. Anyway, so I strongly doubt Jimmy DM90 was referencing that, but hey, always like a good song title if there's even an outside shot.
Let me go back to caldera. Its origin is late 17th century, from Spanish, also from the late Latin calderia, boiling pot.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. No, it was super clever. It was definitely in the mix. So there you go. Well, that'll do it for the episode, Sean. We done did another one.
We sure did, Alex. We sure did. All right. Well, that's going to end it then for us. That sounds kind of repetitive of what you said, but that's fine. This has been episode 257. Thanks again to Shang Connery.
258. I forgot to update the wording.
Oh my goodness. I'm leaving it all in. It's fine. This has been episode 258. Thanks again to Sean Connery for Foment. Excellent. All right. Well, until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Duke you later, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on September 9th, 2021. Our theme music provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com. And for all places in the Duchy, go to DukesOfDice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsor, Game Toppers LLC. You can learn all about Game Toppers at GameToppersLLC.com. Remember, if it's not a showstopper, it's not a game topper. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Until then, game on.